nothing really matters. It's all made up. Everything is all made up. So like we can do whatever we want. It doesn't matter. And no one's actually paying attention to what you're doing because everyone's so focused on themselves. It's very much dance like nobody's watching because everyone's had that thought. Everyone's watching me dance. No one's watching you because everyone's thinking the same thing. Just go out there and have a great time for yourself.
All right, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the What You Don't Hear podcast. Grab something yellow, pull up a seat, toss in those headphones. This is a life podcast. It's what I like to call a open journal dive into people's lives as I sit and I uncover the real story behind my guest journey, finding out what makes them who they are, talking about all the ups, all the downs, and all the thoughts and feelings in between as we dig into the parts of their story that we otherwise wouldn't get to hear. I am your host. My name is Ross Tyson. I am a creative of many kinds, a maker of many things, and here is a reminder up front to make sure that you subscribe to this show on whatever platform that you're checking this out on right now. It would help out a ton. If you really like the show and you want to make sure you don't miss more of it, you can follow this show around social media at WYDH Pod. If you're on YouTube, please hit that like button so it tells the algorithm somewhere that this show matters to you and might matter to somebody else. You hear it all the time from every single creator everywhere of all kinds, but it all adds up and truly does help more than you may think. The support goes a really long way. And speaking of support, I've got some other supporters that help this show very directly. They help them out a whole lot. So I'm going to tell you about the sponsors and partners that I've got for this show in this week's episode, and then we will dive into a very fun conversation with my guest, Alex Copeland. So first up, it's my longest tenured sponsor and partner here on the show. It's PromoWest Productions. So if you live in or around Columbus, Ohio, and you're interested in catching a live show, if you want to get that live music experience, well, they've got plenty of shows for you to choose from, but you may want to check out one of these upcoming concerts coming your way via PromoWest. They've got Premise and Coheed and Cambria coming to Kemba Live on August 6th. Then Pepper and Iration at Kemba Live on August 9th. Washed Out is also playing at Kemba Live on August 11th. And then Peter Cat Recording Company comes to Newport Music Hall on Saturday, September 14th. So if you want to grab tickets to any of these shows, you can just jump over to AXS.com. Or, as always, for more information on these or any other upcoming concerts, if you want to know who's coming to town and when, you can find all that info you need over at PromoWestLive.com or by following them at PromoWest Live. This episode is also brought to you in part by Makers Social. Now, Makers is located right over in the Franklinton Arts District, right here in Columbus, Ohio, the place where this podcast used to call home. Now, why I'm stoked to have Makers on board as a partner and a sponsor for this episode is, well, it's owned and operated by friend of the show and past guest, Meg Pando, and you can go check out her story, her podcast episode, anytime in the archives. That's back on episode 46. But she is a wonderful person, and Makers is a wonderful place. So, what is it? Well, Makers Social is a DIY craft project bar where you can get your hands messy with some fun projects like woodworking, leatherworking, jewelry making, painting, and more. And while you do all of this, you can drink if you want, because they also have a fully loaded bar with cocktails, local beers, and a very rare bourbon list for you bourbon collectors out there. So what's more fun than getting your craft on with some friends or family, while also maybe getting your drink on as well for a night out. And they also host private group events, such as corporate events for team building and even birthdays. So if you want to check it out, if you want to go book and make a reservation, well, you can just hop over to their website. And if you do book, right now you can type in WYDH into the notes section of your checkout when you make the reservation to get $10 off your project's booking. So head to makerscolumbus.com if you want to check it out, or simply follow them to see what they're all about at makers.social. What You Don't Hear is proud to be partnered with our friends over at Queerencia. Queerencia is an LGBTQ plus lifestyle and apparel brand that aims to support the queer community by empowering all people within it to embrace their true identity and express themselves boldly and proudly, while also at the same time aiming to create more accessibility to queer history and queer culture in general. Now, if you do really want to hear the full story of the brand, I had owner and creator Ty Collier on the show back on episode 70. So if you do want to deep dive into it all, be sure to go check that out. But right now, I urge you to jump over to queerencia.co to check out all that they do and all their amazing apparel they have available in their shop. You can follow them at queerencia.co, or again, hop to their site to learn more and make a purchase and support at queerencia.co. That's .co. And I cannot thank them enough for partnering with this show and being a sponsor of this episode. All right, so this week on the show, I sit down for such a fun conversation with Alex Copeland, the creator of Plenty O Cookies, and you may also know him as drag queen Plenty O Smiles. So we talk about a ton in this episode. We talk about his performances in the drag world, how he got involved with it in the first place, where the interest in baking even came from, and how that turned into a successful business and brand now known as Plenty O Cookies. And folks, I really just can't lay it out any simpler and to the point more than that. If I told you any more, I'd be spoiling the conversation. So let's just get to it. Let's dive in. Here is episode 114 of What You Don't Hear and the story of Alex Copeland. I think it is time to make a podcast. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am very, very stoked we are making this happen and meeting for the very first time.
I know, it's crazy.
This is one of those episodes where it's literally just, this is one of those cases where I brought a guest in and I know a general thing that they do that I think is cool, and I'm like, and now we find everything else out and how that came to be. But you're from, I mean, I've seen you on a couple other podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
So you're familiar with the hop in and like, cool, let's just talk about all the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you being down to be on the show so much because, yeah, I mean, outside of a couple DMs and some texts at this point, we don't know each other at all. So I appreciate you being down just to wander into a studio and be like, yeah, cool, let's talk about my life. Why
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So just to kind of open the floodgates, I mean, I found you through Plenty O Cookies.
Okay.
So, and with that, I don't know what else you do outside of Plenty O Cookies.
That's perfect.
So lay it out for me. Like, what all do you do?
So, career-wise, I have a cookie business, and it's called Plenty O Cookies. I'm also a drag queen, and that's how I got Plenty O Cookies, the name, because my drag name is Plenty O Smiles. So I've done drag for, I think, 11 years this year, and then cookies for 10 years this year.
That is awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so I do those two things.
Yeah.
And then the rest is really just, hang out with friends, traveling, just kind of living life, doing whatever I feel like.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So the main thing, like your main job is Plenty O Cookies.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know I'm asking a loaded question here, but I want to dig into how does that come to be at all? You said that came after doing drag?
Yes. So it wasn't like I started doing cookies because of drag.
Yeah.
So I started doing cookies. I was working at this small business. It was called Bank Davies. It used to be in the Short North and at Easton. And I was working there, and I hated working for someone else. Mm-hmm. And because I had to request off work to go do things that I wanted to do, and I hated that. So one day, I was just thinking, what is something I just enjoy doing that I could possibly make a job out of? And I said, well, I like to bake. And I had remembered when I was at Ohio State, my friend showed me these cookies that were custom decorated, and I said, I'm going to try it. So I went home, bought all the ingredients, and I just baked cookies, and then I made the icing to decorate, and I just decorated them. It was very simple decorations. It wasn't anything specific. I was just going for, proof of concept kind of thing. Like, can I do this? Is it something I would want to do? So I did that, and then I just was doing it for fun and taking photos, and I would make them for like friends' parties, and really word of mouth, it just started and kept going.
Yeah. How many years did it, like, do you feel like, was it like an immediate thing where you were like, oh wait, I'm doing this all the time and now people are really, really wanting it? Or was it like, hey, no, I did that for like 6 years and then it started to catch on to where it became like the full-time thing?
So when I first started, I mean, obviously in my mind, I wanted to do this as a job. I was like, I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to work for myself. So like, I kind of had an idea that I wanted to have a cookie business. But I don't think I really latched onto it as being like a work thing. Probably, I would say it wasn't even super long. I would say like 6 months maybe, because I was making them, and then my friend still has a farmer's market. And I was doing the main stage shows at Union and Axis at the time. And he was the light tech. His name is Michael Phelan. He's wonderful. And he was like, do you want to sell your cookies at my farm market? And I'm like, yeah. So every week he would give me an order for, I think it was like maybe 1 or 2 dozen. It wasn't a lot, but it gave me the opportunity to try different techniques, try different shapes of cookies, like little things. And that's kind of how I got started actually making like some money off of it. And then there was like word of mouth, and I would just do them for small get-togethers. And then another friend came up, and they were like, because I was talking about if I wanted to teach classes doing cookies, and if I wanted to do it in drag. And I do teach workshops in drag. So she came up and she was like, well, when are you going to host your first one? And I didn't have a date. I didn't have anything in mind. I was just like, I don't know yet. I still have to figure some things out. And she said, I'm booking you for this date at this time. She said, because if I book you right now, it'll force you to get everything together, and after your first one, everything else will fall easy. And because of that, I started doing cookie decorating workshops too. So it was like pretty fast after I started. I just started doing it as like work and like making money off of it.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that when you were at Ohio State is when you kind of got, I guess maybe for lack of a better term, like introduced to the idea of custom cookie and baking and all that sort of stuff. Had baking been like a hobby or interest previously or up to that point? Or was it literally that moment you were like, you know what? Wait, I haven't really tried this before. This might be a thing.
I was always baking with my mom and grandma growing up. It was mostly for holidays, maybe birthdays, and it was like box mixes, which, don't get me wrong, a box mix, I love a box mix. Like cake, whatever. I will never like talk shit about that.
Right.
It's so good. I'm totally for it. But we would just bake for those, and we'd bake cookies for Christmas. And I just always knew I liked it. I just always knew that I've always had a sweet tooth. Always loved baking with my mom and grandma. So I knew it was something I was interested in. Now, I was introduced to it when I was at Ohio State by a friend. But this was before we had, I think Vine was a thing, but it wasn't like a content creator thing. I mean, there were people who were making Vines who were like Vine famous kind of deal, but they weren't doing it to like sell things. They were just being silly on there and had silly content. Right. I'm not sure if you were ever a Vine person.
Yeah, so I wasn't like as deep into Vine as everybody else was, but I definitely used it and was familiar with it. Yeah.
So I was pretty big into Vine, and I had a few Vines that kind of went viral at that time, but we didn't have the same content. I mean, you had YouTube channels that people would create like whatever little things, but it wasn't how it is today, where you would get on there and you see all these cookie decorating videos, and you see like nothing like that introduced me to it. It was more someone showed me a photo of some decorated cookies, and I was like, that would be really cool to try. And then after that, I just remembered it over the years and decided to do it.
Right. So it was kind of just that
one little taste.
Yeah. It was a little bit, it was like laying dormant enough to where like once you got reintroduced a little bit, it was like, oh no, wait. That interest, that passion is still there. Yeah. Let's see what it looks like to now mess with it as an adult.
Yeah, like, and I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to start. I think I just messaged that friend who told me about it. She gave me the name of the website that she showed me the cookies. I went there, and then from there, I found recipes. I found stuff about icing consistency, and just went.
What was it you think that like unlocked that like this is a real passion of mine, rather than just like, you could have baked a batch of cookies and been like, oh yeah, I still got that little bit of a hobby in me. It's still I'll still do it for holidays for friends or something, right? Yeah. And I got it out of my system though, where we don't need to keep pursuing. Like, have you thought, or do you know maybe what that was that just made it stick, where you were like, no, this is a thing that I love? Like, or is it not that deep and it's just, hey dude, it's fun? Like,
I think it's probably a little bit of both. Yeah. I think it probably is just something I just happen to enjoy. But I also think there's a part of it that feels really good whenever you make people happy when you bake for them. I'm not super big into it, but I really enjoyed watching like Great British Baking Show, right? And one of the contestants, as she was leaving, she was like, I bake because it makes people happy, and I love making people happy. And that just like resonates with me because I like making people happy, and baking does that for people.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you? This is a bit of a silly question.
Ooh, I love silly questions.
But like, do you feel like you've kind of always had that nature about you, like even growing up and everything, of that like, I like to find ways to make people happy, and I say it's a silly question because who doesn't want to be nice to somebody, right? But
yeah,
I think that takes a certain intention and action to really take a step to say, I want to do something nice for somebody, not just because, but because I truly enjoy making someone happy. Like, do you feel like that's kind of always been a prominent quality for you? Or?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's something I would have to ask other people whether they felt I've made people happy my whole life.
Right.
But I don't know. So what I tell people about my drag persona, right? Because usually, like, if there's a drag queen, they have a character, like it's a character, right? My character, my ultimate goal is to make people happy while I'm on stage, laugh, entertain them, and if they're having a good time, I'm having a good time, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So I feel like no matter what, that's kind of how I've lived my life, is like give out the energy that I want back.
Yeah, 100%. So can we dive into like when you started drag and everything?
Yeah.
Like, so take me back. Like, when does that start? How does it come up? Like,
so I was at Ohio State. And my friend, her name is Mary, she was on I don't even know what the name of the organization is anymore, but they were doing an amateur drag show, and they did it every single year. And she was like, Alex, you totally should do this. You should try it out. And I was going to, but then I chickened out because I had never seen drag. I had never put myself in drag. I didn't know what I was doing. And then after that year, I was dating someone. He showed me drag shows, and I knew other drag queens. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. So my senior year, I did this amateur drag show. I got painted by my drag sister. My other drag sister helped me pick out an outfit and a wig. And I did that amateur show. And one of the people who was like judging it or kind of hosting it, her name is Virginia West, and that's my drag grandmother. If you like follow like family lines, whatever, she's my drag grandmother.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yeah. And she was like, would you want to do a cameo, which is like a free booking at Union? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I would love to. So she had me do a couple free shows. And because of that, I also met, which I had met before, but my drag mother, which is Nina West. And she adopted me a few months later. So it was literally just, I did this amateur drag show, and they kind of just brought me into the family, and it just went from there. It was never a plan to be a drag queen. I had never thought about being a drag queen. And my friend, I think the year before I actually did it, she was like, would you ever be a drag queen? And I said, no, never. You would never catch me doing drag. And then I did it, and I loved it because I've always loved theater. So for me, it's very much a community theater kind of thing. You're putting on this makeup, this costume, you have this character, and you're performing, make people happy.
Yeah. What was it before that you were like, I'm not interested in it? Like, it's just seemed like a lot of work, or?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just never saw it for me.
Yeah. That makes sense. And so that was kind of another thing. I mean, I feel like there's already kind of a through line of like, you keep kind of being introduced to these new things, and then you're like, oh wait, like this is amazing. I love this. Like, now I want to keep doing it. Like, so it was kind of almost 0 to 100 in the world of drag, like when you were welcomed in, and then you're like, okay, like, and not like overnight sort of thing, but it was just a like, cool, the door's open, I'm introduced to it, I'm finding out that I now love it, and then cool, like, here we go. Or like, was that like years of a process of?
So with drag, I think a lot of drag queens, when they first start, they're always nervous that they're not gonna like look good, perform well. Like, they're worried about not being a great drag queen from the very beginning. And I never had that thought process. Mm-hmm. I was just like, I'm just gonna do it just because, like, well, like, why not? And so my process, it wasn't like I did it and then I was like full into it. Mm-hmm. I just kind of like took the time to learn about it. And a lot of my drag sisters who, when I was performing with them, I would ask them, how does my makeup look? What can I change? Like, where should I buy wigs? Where can I get costumes? Because a lot of them have costumes that are custom made. And I'm like, well, I don't have any of those. I'm just buying off the rack. So for me, when I first started, I wasn't full blown like, oh, I'm a drag queen, I'm in it, whatever. I was just trying to learn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's something a lot of drag queens who are just starting, because we have Drag Race, we have all of these videos and all this different content that they can absorb and get information from. It's a little bit different. Not like I started before all of that. It just wasn't as prevalent. But I just learned from the queens that were around me and kind of got slowly more and more into it and into the shows.
Yeah. What was your favorite, like, thing, I guess, that maybe you learned about that entire world, or maybe even learned about yourself, like when you entered the drag world? Like, how did it feel in general?
It feels good being on stage.
Yeah.
It really does. I don't know. I think one of my favorite things is, so my drag name is Plenty O Smiles, and people will say they recognize me because of my smile, and I think that's wonderful, because if that's the way I'm recognized, cool beans, that's amazing. I love it. I don't know. I think just being on stage and entertaining, it's a wonderful feeling, and I get to perform songs that I really like. I don't perform a lot of current songs. I'm like a throwback person,
That's
right?
fun, yeah.
So when I was first performing, it was a lot of, I like the 18s. So if you're big into, I don't know if you know a lot about ABBA at all. I'm a big ABBA fan, and the 18s, when I was growing up, they do a lot of covers of their songs, so I did a lot of that. I remember doing Bop a lot.
Incredible.
From Hanson, but it was all these throwback songs, so I got to kind of introduce people to what I really like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I enjoy that too.
Right. Now, so we've talked, like you've mentioned a couple times of, again, just like in general, like figuring out that you really like to just make other people happy and make other people smile and entertain and all that sort of stuff. And sorry if you have mentioned this before, but like, was growing up, like, was that a big part of you as well, of like wanting to be, or maybe not wanting to be, but enjoying being an entertainer? Or were you involved in theater growing up? Or I guess I'm asking the question, like, take me back, like, what's growing up like?
Yeah. The only thing I did as an entertainer is I did high school plays and musicals. And I think after that, I decided I always wanted to do a community theater aspect of my life. But I mean, my family has always been very animated, where not my mom as much as my dad. My dad, he really introduced me into like musical theater, so he loves movie musicals. We would like watch movies together. We'd watch the Oscars, and we'd kind of like talk about movies a lot. So I think other than those parts, that's really all I had. I don't know. I just, maybe I've been animated my entire life, and just like this person who's more extroverted. So it just kind of came from there.
That was honestly going to be my next thing, is like, if you were to label like how you were growing up, would you put the introvert or extrovert label on? Like,
yeah, I would say extrovert. I mean, if you had a conversation or like watched my family interact, which it's my mom and dad, my sister and myself, right? We are all very loud, like opinionated people. We're not just going to sit there, have a quiet night. Like, we are all going to talk. We're going to talk loudly. We're going to, like, we play board games, and we're just very competitive. We're just like big personalities.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably where I got a lot of my energy or my drive to do it.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, did you grow up here in Columbus, or are you from elsewhere? Or?
I grew up in Canton, Ohio. If
Gotcha.
you're familiar where that is, it's where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is.
Vaguely.
I was gonna say.
I'm terrible with like, if you name any actor other than like Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt, I'm like, if you show me a face, I can see a face. Same thing with locations. I'm like, you could make up a town right now, and I'd be like, that's cool, you're from there. Like, amazing.
So technically, I'm from a place called Massillon, but Massillon and Canton are like intertwined. And then a lot of people know of Canton because it's like Akron, Canton.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just Northeast Ohio, but that's where I grew up, and then I came to Columbus when I went to Ohio State.
Okay, I'm very similar with the way I grew up. Like, I'm from a very small town in Ohio that no one's ever heard of, called Crooksville.
Crooksville. Where is that located? Within Ohio.
So I do the same thing that you did where you're like, yeah, Canton and this place beside each other. So do you know where Zanesville is?
Yeah.
So Crooksville is right beside Zanesville. So most people, I'm like, oh yeah, Zanesville area. And they're like, oh, got it. Like now I understand where you're from. I'm like, yes. So I do the exact same thing where I'm like, it's just Zanesville area.
You just keep going to like the next bigger city until they figure it out.
Basically, which is wild to me that Zanesville, while I was growing up, was the city to me.
Yeah.
Because they had all the fast food restaurants, they had a mall, they had a Walmart, like anything, and my town had a Circle K. So that was the gist.
And now every time I think of Zanesville, I
know where you're going.
It was so sad.
That's everyone's responses. I'm like, it's from around Zanesville. They're like, the animals? And I'm like, yeah, the animals.
It was so sad. So if people are listening and they don't know what we're talking about like there was this one ranch or something that had a whole bunch of exotic animals.
Yeah.
And they like all seemed to get free one day. I don't know what happened.
Well, it's dark what happened.
Oh my
himself and as that was happening let the animals loose.
Oh my gosh. So now I'm mad at him.
Right.
It's very much like I'm still bitter about the child who killed Harambe.
Fair. Yes.
I'm still upset about it.
Exactly. Yeah, so that was another chain reaction domino effect of events there. So while he is all premeditated, at least according to, what we were told. I don't know the details, right?
Yes, we weren't there.
No. But yes, that is everyone's immediate reaction when they know they're like, Zanesville, where all the animals were murdered, and I'm like, yes, that is true. Yeah. That's where I'm from.
It was a very sad day.
Yes. Now, and at least there's that I can attach. Like someone's like, oh, Zanesville, the animals. If I say Crooksville, someone's like, what?
Yeah. I wouldn't have known where that was.
Exactly. I could be like, where the Circle K is in the one spotlight.
And then they're like, oh, the Circle K.
Yeah, exactly. They're like that Circle K. And now there's no stoplights in the town. So it's actually, I feel like, gotten smaller since then.
How many people were like in your graduating class?
Oh, I could get this wrong, but what's in my head is like maybe around 100. I think.
Okay.
And some people have been like, oh, mine had 50. And I'm like, mine was pretty small, like real small though. Yeah. Like, and I could be wrong about that 100. And honestly, who knows? It could have been 500 or it could have been 25. I really don't remember at this point. But very much small town life for sure. Like I feel like I grew up in like that small town bubble. Like
I think it's a good experience.
It's cool. Like, and I don't even like not in a negative way. I'm like, oh, my town's like I'm not one of those people who like hates their hometown.
Yeah.
Do I love it? No. Do I think there's a lot of room for like improvement and I do think that a lot of people put themselves in the small town bubble of not understanding what the world at large is like.
Yeah.
Yes, that happens. And when I go back to visit, I literally do genuinely feel like I'm visiting another planet.
Yeah.
Like I really do, just because ever since I moved to Columbus, and as we should, we grow, we change, we evolve as people and we become different versions of ourselves. And so when I go back for sure, I'm just like, man, like I re-enter a bubble and a lot of the people there, like I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but like they know what they know the Circle K, right? Yeah. And that's the gist. And it's just, I look at a place like that and I don't know what your experience with your hometown or feelings are about it, but like when I think about my hometown, I always I feel like it's a couple steps away from being able to kind of rechristen itself one of those like nice, quaint little towns that no one knows about, but if you stop through, it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But right now they're on the trajectory of just like every building's being boarded up. So like,
oh no,
it's like that balance where like it has its cool factors. And of course it's my hometown. It's always going to be some sort of a special thing. But especially becoming an adult and learning how the world works and what else is out there and also how things can be made to be better, right, and be rebuilt. I have this like little shred of hope that I'm like, man, if you just like cleaned up a little bit, it could be this just a nice little place that no one knows about, rather than a weird little place that no one wants to go to.
Yeah, my mom, I think she'll always have that little bit of hope. She knows it'll never happen, but she's like, oh, you could always just come back and live in Canton again.
There's always that hope, yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, it'll never happen. I was like, it's just not going to happen for me. I'm never going to live back here again. I'll be in Columbus or somewhere else. It'll just never be Canton again.
No, that's.
But there's still always, like you said, when you go back, there's a part that just feels like home. Like So I get it.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, this is home, and also, why is my home so trashy now?
Yeah.
Why is it getting dirtier? What's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
I remember the first couple years that I moved to Columbus. I feel like my dad and some family members weren't necessarily pushing for it, but they were like, well, when you coming back? Like, yeah, you're just going up there just to kind of check it out, right?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna come back, because none of us wanted to leave. Like, why would you leave?
Yeah.
Right? But if to use the cliche term, like, I am absolutely like the black sheep of my family.
Okay.
100%. Like the only one, and I don't mean that in any other way other than different.
Yeah.
Of just the only one who ventured out into different things or enjoys doing a million different things and having different life experiences, and basically just didn't do the, like, go to high school, maybe go to college for a thing, and then just get a job and then just kind of hang out forever. So leaving that bubble for me was a kind of a big leap. But at that time, with a lot of the stuff that I was wanting to do with my life, I was like, I cannot do any of this here.
Correct.
Like,
and it's nice to get that experience. Like
100%.
Like, I think people, they think that if you leave for whatever reason that may be, that you have to leave forever, and it's you don't.
Right.
It is so good for people to get out of their hometown, even for a little bit, to experience different things, because you just have to see what else is out in the world. Mm-hmm. My family, basically everyone has lived same hometown, same city kind of thing their entire lives. So I'm like, of course your guys' the view of the world is completely different than mine, because you've never done anything. You've never been anywhere else. You need to go view those things and just experience it. And plus, it's so much fun.
There's literally so much stuff to do and experience, and people to meet and all this sort of stuff. And again, I know it's probably a larger percentage of human beings are kind of like, this is my bubble and I'm safe here, and this is, I get it, but
it's scary.
For sure.
I was terrified when I went to Ohio State, because I'm like, oh my, because I was just like, I've never just like not lived with my parents. I've just like never not like lived where my family was.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to a whole new city that I don't know anyone in, and I just kind of have to make the best of it. But I would not have it any other way.
Right, exactly. Now, what took you to Ohio State? Like, what were you going to school for?
I don't think I really even had a plan.
Okay.
I was just like, I want to go somewhere else that's not home.
Yeah. So you feel like you had that desire to everything we're talking about, to just go and experience more.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Now, did you, not to stay on the hometown subject, but even that idea of whether we're afraid to leave or it is kind of a big leap or whatever, like, I know for me, when I was leaving, I kind of couldn't have been more ready. Like, even though I didn't necessarily know exactly what was going to happen, right? There wasn't really a fear part of me where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm moving. For me, it's like an hour 20 away from home.
Yeah.
There wasn't really that, like, what was that like for you, like, in that process? Was it just like, I'm excited enough to go try something different, let's go? There's a little bit of fear, but I want to embrace it. Or was it a little bit more of that, like, oh man, okay, are we actually ready? Like, is this what we want to do? Like, I don't know.
So after I graduated high school, my first year, I went to the University of Akron, and I was commuting.
Yeah.
So I was still living at home, commuting to school, and I was still working at this grocery store that I'd worked at throughout high school. And I was like, I do not want to do this. I was like, I'm driving, I'm working, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I'm not getting anything out of this. And I knew that Ohio State was just far enough away that I'd have to move out. I could be on my own. I could figure out what I wanted to do with my life, because the University of Akron was not doing it for me. And I wasn't meeting any new people there because I was commuting. Because when you're commuting, you get there, you do your classes, and maybe you have time in between your classes, but you're not hanging out with anyone.
Right.
So I wasn't making any new friends. Yep. I was like, I need to leave. I need to go somewhere else. And Ohio State, it just felt right.
Yeah. So
there was no rhyme or reason, though.
Right. So while you were there, like, and I know this is also when we get, kind of reintroduced to the interest in baking and all this sort of stuff, but like, had you begun to uncover any different path, or like, while you were coming to Ohio State, where you're like, you know what, I kind of want to, I will go for that degree, and the classic like marketing degree, or the, whatever, like.
Yeah. So I did communications.
Okay.
It was strategic communications and sexuality studies.
Okay.
So those were my two focuses. And I had a couple positions that gave me some experience with that degree, but I hated it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I hated it, and I was just like, I'm just going to do something else. And even though I'm not doing something necessarily with that degree,
Yeah.
I still think the college experience was great. The classes are whatever. I feel like college, they're like, we want you to do all of these, like, prerequisites or all of these general education classes. That's what they're called, gen ed classes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm never going to use the math that you made me take. You made me take, like 2 more years of these math classes that I don't know anything about anymore. I don't remember a single thing.
Yep.
The marketing classes did help some
Yeah.
with social media, because at one point I thought about being a social media manager. I thought about being a speech writer at one point. I thought that'd be really cool for like a politician or something.
That's fun. Yeah.
And then maybe, I don't even know what the other things were that I was thinking of, but all of that was just very much just while I was in school. And then as soon as I got out of there, I realized it's not what I wanted at all. Because they don't give you a lot of, I guess, like, in the field experience. You do an internship, whatever, which I did an internship, great. But then whenever I actually had to work there, it wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's somehow when I was, 18, graduating high school, all this sort of stuff, I somehow had the foresight to kind of look ahead and just know 100% this more school was not for me.
Yeah.
And that also, even at that time, I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do with life. I knew that I wanted, like, the freedom to kind of create for a living.
Yeah.
I knew at a bare minimum I wanted that. And,
Yeah.
and exactly what you just said, I don't want to go and take more math classes. Like, I don't want to go and spend the money for school now.
Yeah.
And just to probably barely get by with a D in whatever these classes are. You know what I mean? Like, I knew I wasn't going to apply myself in any of those ways. Now, did you graduate from college and everything? Okay, so you finished everything. And
I did. When you were growing up, did you have this, I feel like it was kind of like drilled into you that people who went to college are smarter than if you didn't go to college?
Yeah, I think that cliche was there.
And,
yes.
And I'm like, people who go to college, they may be smarter in certain areas. It doesn't make them smarter overall than anyone else.
No.
Because most of the time you're not learning you're not learning a lot of the things. A lot of the time it's just memorization.
1,000,000%.
And it drove me crazy, because I'm like, why am I here? Why am I memorizing these things just to take a test to prove I could memorize it?
The thing that solidified it for me was in high school. One of my high school best friend and I had this method to pass tests. And, and it wasn't cheating, believe it or not.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
It was, and also this is to your point of, like, it's just about what you remember. It's not about what you've retained of actual information.
Not at all.
Are certain people retaining the information and know it? Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Are most people just like, what was that? Oh yeah, I remember that. So this just adds to the, like, is it really that big? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
It was one of the teachers would basically give us 10 minutes before a weekly quiz to look over the study materials. So basically, exactly what you're saying, remember this for 10 minutes and then take the test, see how you do.
Yeah.
So my best friend and I, we would basically, in our high school boy brains, come up with, like, absurd scenarios or stories about every question and answer.
Yeah.
So that way it locked in to, like, we would think of, like, oh, Johnny Appleseed did this and this thing, or whatever absurd thing. So that way when it pops up on the test.
Is it a mnemonic device? Is that like where you say something and it helps you remember that specific thing?
Maybe. Yes, probably. I will believe, again, this is another thing you could just say something and I'll be like, that is correct.
I could have said it completely wrong. I don't know it.
But, like, that method. Yeah. So just, like, we would associate the question and answer with some absurd, silly story or quote or whatever. And it literally worked. When it would show up on the test, that really, really dumb sentence that we made up about George Washington doing this, we'd be like, oh, it's this answer. And that's literally how we pass tests.
And that's all you need. That's all you need. I feel like they don't teach you a lot of things that you will need for your life. They teach you all these random things. And they put so much pressure on you. The amount of anxiety that I had in school from, like, they're like, you need to do all your homework. And if you miss your homework, you're gonna, like, bad things will happen.
Permanent records.
Oh my gosh.
Remember that?
In elementary school, my anxiety, I was like, I didn't do my homework. This is the end. I will never live this down. Oh my gosh. Just from that. I'm like, let's all calm down.
And when you learn, like, permanent records aren't a thing either. Like, it's just a thing that's, like, I don't know, made up for TV shows or maybe made up in real life. That they, like, there's no any of that stuff. And it is, like, it's a much larger problem that neither you or I can really solve, right? And probably, unfortunately, I don't think will ever change.
Correct. I would agree.
I don't feel like the schooling system will ever... I mean, because you see people, you know, especially now with social media, everybody's talking about this stuff now where everyone's like, could we learn how to, like, pay our taxes or how to build credit or how to buy a house or how to... Let's learn any of those. And not that necessarily high schoolers are going to love learning that either.
Correct.
But if you at least have some of that, like, teach me that instead of playing hot cross buns on a flute.
Yeah.
You know?
I told my friend, I was like, I think there should be a class that... it could be a life class, whatever, and they have you buy a house, like, on your first day, and it's doing the mortgage stuff, it's handling your bills.
That would be cool.
And then if they were like, hey, your pipes burst, whatever, let's learn how to fix a pipe.
Yeah.
Like let's learn how to change your filter on your furnace. I'm like, let's just do those little things.
That would be wild.
We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just teach us practical things.
Teach us how to fix the wheel.
Yeah, because it's like we're going to use that way more than I will the Pythagorean theorem.
The last time that, and also, you know, of course, everybody again on the internet jokes about this now, like the classic, like, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time to do this math.
And now we do.
And now I haven't had to think about numbers in years. I'm just like, that's a number. Cool, got it. Yeah. I don't even know how to add these anymore. Yeah. Like, it's bad enough that, like, I have actually considered, like, trying to, like, almost weekly find online math tests that you can just take yourself to literally try and get my brain just firing a little bit more, because there is genuinely a part of me.
See, that would be kind of fun. I think it'd be fun, which back in the day, you couldn't pay me. I was like, no, I'm not doing more math.
I don't want to do it.
No.
And like, did you do, like, the speed math tests where it was how quickly you could answer all the things?
I love things like that.
Yeah. Like, and I was
They're like,
you
have 5 minutes to do this entire sheet or
finish
whatever.
The sheet, however far you get.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And then if you did it and you got like 100%, you didn't have to do it the next week.
Yeah.
Which I also felt like was kind of annoying. Because I wanted to prove I could do it every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, so now I don't have to do it anymore?
Right, yeah. Was I just good enough once? And now I don't have to, like, let's build some consistency here.
Yeah, give me something harder. I'm ready.
Yeah. But I literally, as an adult, have considered, like, there's got to be some sort of just, like, empty, you know, fill it out every, you know, sort of thing of, like, some digital math test. Because I'm like, man, like, there is a part of me that wants to make sure that part of my brain can still actually work and understand some of these things other than, like, some quick math problems that I might just, you know, remember.
For me, it's spelling. Because our phones, like, will auto fill in words and things like that.
Yep.
And I'm really nervous that I'm going to forget how to spell words. So sometimes I try not to use that very often at all on my phone. But then I also play a lot of word games on my phone.
Yeah.
Just to, like, so I can continue that.
Yep. Are there like different things like that where, like, you've like, again, as the years go on and we become more of an adult, that you kind of pick those things up where you're like, oh, just kind of refining this random skill would be kind of nice. Like, I feel like in the last 3 to 4 years, the reason I asked that is those things have become almost more prominent to me, where I'm like, I haven't used this skill in a long time, or like, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. Like, where it's almost just like kind of regaining some life experience, where I'm like, it's kind of going back to the bubble conversation, right?
Yeah.
Of like, all right, am I now stuck in my own new routine that, while I might like and might be great, am I making sure I'm kind of, even in a simple way, giving little challenges to myself that are kind of outside of my day-to-day bubble? Like, that might just be a me thing, because I won't say big on this, but, like, I try to stay conscious of not getting stuck, because I know I'm a creature of habit. Yeah. I know I'm a routine person, and I will just do the same 5 things every day, kind of. I mean, the way my life is structured, there's enough variety in every day, but, like, kind of the general way I go about them is following the same structure. But I often have been thinking about in the last handful of years, like, what are just, again, the life experiences thing, what are different things, big and small,
Yeah.
that I can keep kind of trying to do, whether it is a silly math test online or checking my spelling or
Yeah.
doing something that's a little bit out of the norm that I don't have to do, but now I get the like, we now get the choice to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
We're not being forced.
Exactly.
Now we can choose to
like
do it.
when learning sucks, when you're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But I feel like I've gradually been finding myself more and more being like, I just want to pick up some different new skills and different new hobbies and things like that. Like, I don't know if you ever find yourself venturing out into any random things like that of like, let me just gain some more life experiences just cuz.
I recently thought about, like, what if I could crochet or, because I see people and they make those, like, little, like, stuffed animals or whatever.
Yeah,
And I was like, that just seems super cute. And, like, what if I'm just, I'm on, like, a plane or something and I'm just crocheting. Like, I'm, like, that person.
Right? Yeah.
I haven't done it because I also spend recklessly. So, like, I will just buy a kit and I'll never do it.
Right.
So, I kind of have to pull myself back because I will buy the random things. Like, I bought this kit and it was to put tinsel in your wigs. So, like, individual strands are shiny.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't opened it, but I have it.
Yeah.
Someone also bought me a sewing machine. Haven't used it.
Right.
I could learn how to make a dress.
It's there.
And that seems practical. I should learn how to do that.
Right.
But no, I try to bring all that in because I will just buy random things. I'll never do it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. See, I don't like spending money on
Really?
like I'm very much like a minimalist.
Oh,
Like,
see, I'm not.
Almost not intentionally though. Like, it was
Okay.
just kind of like gradually as once I eventually got my own apartment.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, what, because I like interior design and aesthetics of things and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, all right, I got this aesthetic in mind. And, one day I looked at it and I was like, oh, wait, there's not a lot of stuff in here. And I'm that person who, like, maybe 2 or 3 times a year will kind of go through my things and be like, when's the last time I touched this? Do I think I'll ever use it again? Do I really, like, with clothes, with items in my house? And I'm very much like, even things I enjoy, like, I'm a huge horror movie fan.
Oh, same.
So, love that. So, like, I'll go to, like, horror conventions and stuff like that. And I go to them, and there's all these booths and vendors of all these things that I think are so cool and I want. But genuinely, like, I'm very good at not giving in to, like, I'm going to buy that. Because I'm the big, like, do I want it or I need it, and how bad of each, right? Where I'm like, how bad do I really want it? And do I really need it? Like, I don't know. So then I just walk home or, go home empty-handed where I'm like, you did have fun at this convention, right? Like, you didn't, but I just don't like, I don't know. I don't like clutter. I don't know.
See, I feel like I'm a clutter person.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I like it. I do like buying, like, the little things.
Yeah.
So if I went to that convention, I know I would be leaving with things.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to you saying that you're into horror movies, I noticed that it has graboids on here.
Yes.
Tremors was one of my favorite movies growing up.
Yes.
And for Halloween, I actually want to create. it's a photo, and it's like the water tower.
Yeah.
And they have, like, a trash can, like one of those metal drum trash cans that they made into, like, the graboid, and, like, a person, like, crawling up it. And I want that for my yard for Halloween as a decoration.
Cool.
But see, that's like the maximalist of me, where I'm like, oh, let's just buy a whole bunch of other shit to put in my front yard, and then I have to find a place to store it in my garage.
Right. Yeah.
But I do purchase a lot of things. I purchased a pasta maker. Well, I'm not yet. On Facebook Marketplace, I'm on there too frequently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And do I need a pasta maker? Because guess what? I can buy a $1.50 box of pasta at the grocery store.
Right.
But no, I was like, what if I want fresh pasta? What if I want to make my own kind of whatever pasta?
Yeah.
So I'm buying a pasta maker.
Incredible. Well, I am excited for that next venture
Thank
of yours. Absolutely love that. I'll be watching for Plenty of Pasta to pop up at some point.
Exactly.
Like, we'll see what and I mean, all of that stuff is like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a maximalist, a minimalist, or whatever. Like, if it's hey, if you stack some stuff up, but it ends up evolving into putting a Perfection Valley water tower in your front yard with a graboid popping up, it's not the worst habit.
I know.
You know,
there's like this new term for it, and it's like dopamine decor. where it's things that just make you happy, whether it makes anyone else happy. Like, it doesn't matter. So that's why that's probably me justifying my random purchases.
You know what? Justify what?
I almost bought it. Well, I still look for a kayak. I'm not going to go kayaking very often, but during the summer, that 1 or 2 times that I might go, I would have my own.
That is fair. You would be prepared.
Do I need a kayak? No, because you can rent them at the kayak place.
Right.
But yeah, my friends, they laugh at me and they're like, Alex, you'll just buy whatever you want. And that is true. If I see something and I want it, I'm going to just buy it.
Do you feel like you're that way with like drag and baking? Like, are you very much like, I want to just collect all the stuff, or do you feel like you're more intentional with those? Or
I think I'm more intentional with those.
Gotcha.
I think in drag I used to be, where I would just buy things if I'm like, oh, I might use that, I might do that. Now I'm like, I know I'm not going to use that. Or if I'm only going to use it once, don't buy it, because I have a drag room, and I'm like, it's just full of shit.
Right.
The most random. It's fun. It's fun stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I have something that my friend gave me, and it's literally like a rooster's head that goes over. It's like a very showgirl-y. It's like sequins and everything. I've never worn it. I've had it for years. I've had to travel, like move it around anytime I moved.
Yeah.
But I have it just in case if one time I'm a rooster on stage.
There's going to be that one time where there's a need for a rooster and you're like...
And I'm like, I got it.
I'm good. Like, count me in. We are making this happen.
Yeah.
What has... a complete change of subject kind of here, but what has been like... As Plenty-O Cookies has grown, right? Like, walk me through, like, what's a normal, like, month-to-month process look like for you? Or, like, is it just, like, constant baking, constant events, constant pop-ups? Or, like, I guess, explain to me maybe even, like, how Plenty-O Cookies, like, even operates now. Like, going from reintroduced to baking, we kind of like it, we're doing it for friends, and, hey, now I'm starting to get some more and more orders. Like, how does that turn into, hey, it's my business now. We're going full gear. Yeah, so... for the longest time, I just baked out of, like, whatever apartment I lived at. And that was really difficult because I didn't have a lot of counter space. I didn't have a lot of, like, baking space. I just had, like, a normal oven. And then now I purchased a house going on 4 years ago. And I turned my basement into a full bakery kitchen. That's cool.
So I have a double oven. I've got my own dishwasher, sink, refrigerator, kitchen island that has tons of space. I have like 4 baker's racks to put trays on. I mean, it's like this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Production wise, it varies week to week because there might be a week where we don't have a lot to do, and then a week that we have a ton to do. With Pride coming up, we'll be super busy, basically leading up to it, just getting things ready, planning things out. I don't do a ton of pop-ups. I think it's more just because it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to do that and a lot of work to transport it all. And then, I mean, I've made a few hundred cookies for a pop-up and it rained, so the thing was canceled. So it's very, very much that, you know, if for some reason it cancels, you just have all these cookies that you already made and it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can freeze them. I would prefer not to. I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I guess I've never thought about freezing a cookie before.
Yeah, you can freeze them.
Okay.
It's not for me ideal.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of planning. I do a lot of custom orders. And that's for, like, you know, bridal showers, bachelorette parties, baby showers, birthdays. It's really just anything someone could want cookies for.
Yeah.
And then I have a lot of workshops that I do. Some of them I plan, some of them are just people, they are having a little event and they want some drag in there with some cookies.
Yeah, I love that. Now, we might have touched on this a little bit earlier, but, like, do you remember, like, the moment that you feel like it really did take a turn where you were like, oh, I'm actively churning out a bunch of orders? Like, was there that light bulb moment for you where it really started to click, or was it just kind of a gradual, like, one day you just realized, oh, I'm super busy and I guess I'll go quit because I'm assuming for a while you had a regular day job, right?
Yeah.
Like, what was that moment of, like, where things with Plenty-O, like, kicked in enough where you were like, oh yeah, we can leave this day job now and just go with this? Like,
so I kept my day job until I bought my house.
Nice. Okay.
So even though I've been doing cookies for like going on 11 or 10 years, I didn't leave it because in order to buy a house, I was really nervous that they wouldn't count my self-employment as heavily as they would my other job.
Totally.
So I was like, I'll wait till I have the paper signed, I have my house, then I can quit my day job and just do cookies.
Smart.
But I would say the moment that I thought that I was doing this and it was like a full-time gig, I don't know if it was like a moment, but I knew I was working from like when I woke up until when I went to bed every day. And that was because, I was working my other job, I was doing drag shows, and I was doing cookies. So there'd be times I'd wake up, I would go do my day job, and then I'd come home, I would do cookies for a little bit, get in drag, go do a show, come back home, shower, do more cookies, go to bed at crazy hours in the night, like 4 or 5 in the morning, because I had to finish orders. I mean, if your order's due, you have to finish it.
Yeah.
And then I would wake up and do the same thing over again.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted. I mean, I was like really hustling, and I was really good at just functioning off of like 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And that was it. And people were like, how are you making this happen? And I was like, I literally work all the time.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to get burnt out, so I don't suggest it.
That was going to be my next kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is like, did you hit that moment of burnout, or did you kind of be able to tackle it ahead of time? Or
I did. I was hitting it probably, I would say in 2019, I was hitting like burnout, like, oh my gosh, this is way too much. Like, I'm like killing myself, and I didn't have a lot of space to really bake because I was at this apartment. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And it was like a godsend, honestly. Like, I'm not saying COVID was.
No.
I'm saying that break
Yep.
was so wonderful for me because everything canceled. No one needed cookies. No one needed workshops. I just took that time, and I mean, it's because I had my other job at the time. Still, I was still making money, not as much as I was like with cookies, but I was still making money, so I was still fine. But I was just able to take a step back and sleep and relax and figure out what I wanted to do, how I could do it. And then when things started coming back, it was like no time had passed. Cookie orders were coming back in. It was great. I was nervous for a minute there.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, like what if no one comes back to cookies? But no, it was great. That time off was so wonderful. And that's when I really started to value my time and really, really love how I felt when I wasn't so busy all the time. So I'm probably like raised my prices a little bit and just kind of only took orders that I wanted to, as opposed to just taking every single thing that came my way.
Yeah.
And forcing myself to work to death.
Yep. 100. I genuinely, everything you just said, 100% experience the same thing.
Yeah.
Where, we have that forced slowdown. Obviously, the reason it was happening, terrible.
Yeah.
But the result of it for some individuals, like us, we can sit here and both kind of say, you know what? Yeah, that forced break, let me reevaluate some things and kind of make some small pivots or realize. And I think it did that for kind of everybody in different ways, but I'm not sure those the identifiers of needing change necessarily stuck with everybody.
Yeah.
I think during that time when we're, being made to stay home and do all this sort of stuff, everyone's like, whoa, I haven't worked on my house for, like, that's, everyone got new hobbies for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
But you notice that pretty easily once everything kicked back to normal, a lot of those things then fell to the wayside. Like, some of them stuck with some people, but also I think the vast majority were like, back to work now. Like, that sort of thing. So I genuinely do. I agree. Like, that for me, that time period, it was a little bit of a breather where I'm like, oh, cool. Not, trying to work all the time and saying yes to everything. And let me start to say yes to the right things and stuff that I want to do. Now, I am curious to know, maybe, and maybe the answer is pandemic time. But was there ever a time frame in any of this journey where you were like, I don't think this is going to work, or I don't think I can keep doing this anymore?
Oh, I think it all the time.
Okay, yeah.
I like even to this day. I think a lot of small business owners or people like entrepreneurs in general, you'll have those slow weeks or a slow month, and you're like, maybe this is it. maybe I'm done. And or even the opposite, you're so busy that you're like, do I want to keep doing this? Because sometimes it does seem like it'd be easier to just have a 9 to 5 job and not have to worry about insurance, not have to worry about like your taxes, not have to worry about, okay, well, if I stay busy and I get busier, I have to now hire employees. And how does that look? I didn't go to business school. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm trying to learn it. So there are so many times when I'm like, I could just take my experience, go find a 9 to 5 job, and I just work 9 to 5, done.
Yep. I 100%. Absolutely. There's always those moments, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this past winter was probably the slowest, like freelance entrepreneur, whatever winter that I've maybe ever experienced, ever. And it was hitting the point where I was like, this is a waste of my time. Like, no matter how good I may be at things or how passionate I am, let's just return those to the passion shelf and say that I'll keep doing them, but just in that form. And what skills do I have that I could apply to a regular job? And let's just go do that, because this is just not worth it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because I'll just be there thinking, and I'm like, it ran its course. You had a good time while you were doing it, but maybe you're done. Maybe you're done, and you should just quit and do something else.
Yeah. Now, I want to toss you a bit of a left field question.
Okay.
I say left field question as if I don't bring this up almost every podcast episode. But in terms of our conversation, like, we're talking about like plenty of cookies and the business and all this sort of stuff. Like, hey, were there ever moments that we just didn't feel like any of this was working? It was super difficult. Looking back at your journey, your life, your story as a whole, what do you feel like is the most like difficult moment that you have like dealt with and made it through?
In personal life or business?
Either one, whichever one you feel like I lean more personal life, since we touched on the business a little bit. But unless you're like, no, let's keep it to the business, like totally your choice.
I feel like I went through a really hard breakup.
Yeah.
And that was really rough on me.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, that it affected my business, and that's something else that kind of goes with it.
100%.
Is that you can't stop because you're going through something. You have to keep going and figure all of that out.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I went through a really hard breakup, and it really took me a minute to get past that. But I would say it was that. I don't think there was anything else that has like really been like super difficult to get through. I mean, obviously, I've had, deaths in the family and things like that, illnesses, or like my parents, if they need something. But there hasn't really been anything that caused me to have to stop, or, which I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate that I haven't had anything super crazy happen. But yeah, I would say it was just that.
Are there any like major things that you feel like you took away from like making it through those moments? Like, are there any like new, kind of self-discoveries, or even even if we want to make it practical, and like processes that you were like, hey, like I learned how to cope with things in this method, or I learned how to refocus? Like,
I think what it did for me is it showed me that I know what I want, and I don't put up with anyone else's shit anymore. So for me, it helped me in my personal life, because I mean, I'm 33. I don't know how old are you?
31.
31.
Yep.
I feel like in my 30s, I really just I know who I am. I know what I want. I know what I don't want, and I have just taken all of those experiences, good or bad, and I'm like, everything else, if it doesn't pertain to me, I'm cool just going with the flow where I want to go. I'm not going to go to a party that I don't want to. I'm not going to stay out if I don't want to. If I don't want to have a drink, I'm not going to. Even if my friends are like, oh no, you should, like, do you want to drink? Why aren't you drinking? No, I'm not going to do it. I do whatever I want, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And I'm very confident in myself. And I think that's something that I've definitely learned from those experiences.
Isn't unlocking real self-confidence like one of the most to me at least, I feel like magical things.
It really is.
Happens like as we grow up.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe not everybody gets there. I understand that. Like there's,
it takes time.
It's hard. It's hard.
It takes time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not 100% confident all the time either.
Of course. Yeah.
I think people like I've had people ask me, they're like, how are you so confident? And I'm like, in some aspects in my life, I'm super confident. I know what I'm doing, whatever. But there are some that I'm scared shitless.
Of course.
And I don't know anything.
Yep.
But also I tell people, nothing really matters. It's all made up. Mm-hmm. Everything is all made up. So like we can do whatever we want. It doesn't matter. And no one's actually paying attention to what you're doing because everyone's so focused on themselves, thinking that people are going to remember the embarrassing thing that they did or said or whatever. It's very much dance like nobody's watching because seriously, when you go to a dance floor, if you think about it, everyone's had that thought, everyone's watching me dance. No one's watching you because everyone's thinking the same thing. Just go out there and have a great time for yourself. And it took me a long time to think about that. And also, like, most of the things that we do, it's not going to kill you. Mm-hmm. You're going to keep going. It doesn't really matter. It goes back to the anxiety for test taking and things like that. When I was at Ohio State, there was this one class, and I think I was going to get a C in the class. And I had never had a C in a class. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing in the world that could ever happen to me. And I was like super anxious and I was like going to start crying. And then I was like, if I fail this class, you know what the worst thing that happens to me? I have to retake the class. That's it. And guess what? I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
I said, that's the worst thing. So I really try to tell people that like don't sweat these small things because it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter at the end.
Yeah. I feel like I have really settled into the idea, or maybe not the idea, but I feel like I've taken a lot of notice that a lot of us tend to look at things as like all or nothing.
Yeah.
Everything is black and white. Everything is 0 or 100. And I'm like, no, that like cliche, like most things are in the gray. Most things are in the middle, right? Yeah. It's not just this or that. Because I feel like so many people look at either this happens or that means this happens.
Yeah.
And it's most of the time everything you're saying of like, no.
It's not pass or fail. It's like there's all this in between. And even if you do fail and do poorly or something doesn't work out, you can still move from that and either do it again, learn something from that. I know that's very cliche, like, oh, you learn more from a failure than you do a success. Well, you can learn from both. You can learn from kind of failing, kind of succeeding. Like
exactly. It's what you take out of the experience that happens to you. It's your reaction to it, ultimately. It's like that's something I've shared like a billion times on the show because ever since I learned it, it's been a great reminder for me where I'm like, oh, the things that happen to us are often less important than our reaction to it. Yeah. Doesn't mean to not process things and to not feel the emotions and to not, whatever. But it's what we do with it. And that's where that lesson learned comes into play, where it's like, okay, what can I do with this? What can I do with this annoying person that I have to deal with in this situation? Especially in the freelance world, entrepreneur world, I'm sure you've dealt with those people or those clients or whatever that you're like, what is not landing with you? Yeah. Why are we having this conversation? Yeah. And not that it's always easy in that moment to be like, oh, remember, be confident and speak to them nicely. But like, no, it's not always easy. Yeah. But most of the time, it goes back to like, again, it's super cliche and all over social media now, but it goes right in line with like the dance like no one's watching and also no one's paying attention to you all the time because they're worried about themselves. It's the same thing that like, what is this person projecting on me right now? Yeah. What is this person? Okay, so how can I kill them with kindness? Even if they are being pretty shitty to me. Yeah, yeah. Like, there's obviously some boundaries of respect there of like, hey, if there's just, I'm not going to waste some energy sometimes. We got to be protective of that. Oh, yeah. But at the same time, it's like, that nothing is terrible or amazing. Like, it's somewhere in the middle. Okay, this situation right now is very annoying. This person is very annoying. I'm trying to resolve a conflict. Why am I wasting energy on this? Yeah. But you can identify that as how much of my energy does this really deserve? Let's try and take a step back, take a breath, and really observe this for what this is. Where are they coming from? Why are they saying this to me? Yeah. Why are they handling this situation this way? What's the best version of me that I can do to show up for this? And if everything is met with a brick wall, then you can easily then say, okay, this is not worth any more of my energy. Correct. You can just get yourself out of that situation. Because at the end of the day, if it's unresolvable, you're not hurting anything by getting out. Right, exactly. Sometimes like, that is the resolution. Yeah. It's like you're just going to keep putting energy into something that doesn't matter. Yes. And again, especially when like resolving a conflict, and I feel like especially this runs rampant in the entrepreneur world. And again, us human beings aren't always the best at communicating in any circumstance.
Yeah.
But I definitely think in the world of business, creative, whatever it is, like it's so easy to miscommunicate with somebody.
Yeah.
Because we always assume that somebody else kind of maybe understands what we understand, and then they don't, and they're saying something really stupid, and then, they're asking you to make a cookie that's 6 foot wide, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how can I try and meet this person where they are, and try to sure, we can try to bring them up to our level, but also maybe I just need to give them the answers that they're looking for or that they need, rather than the ones that I want them to have. And again, understanding that, all right, even if this person's being difficult to work with or difficult to talk to, they're not necessarily trying to ruin my life by doing that.
Correct.
Are they adding annoyance to my life? Yes. Might they be aware or unaware of that? Who knows? However, how I react to this situation is either going to make this way worse, and I can let this one bad email or bad conversation ruin the rest of my week.
Yeah.
Or I can sit and give it the amount of energy that I do need to give it and protect the rest of me.
Yep.
By saying, you know what? This is how it is. It's either this. Cool. There we go. Again, it's not this bad email came through. This is the worst thing ever. Again, we're going 0 to 100.
Yep.
And I feel like so many of us tend to look at that situation and it's like, this is really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
Because if it's not really bad, well, it's not amazing. So then it has to be one or the other.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be amazing and it doesn't have to be terrible. It can just be what it is in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's just it. And we can find that balance. I'll get down off my soapbox.
No, I loved it. Because also, even if you have those terrible things, you kind of said it, people focus on it and they let it ruin their day, their week, their hour, whatever. And I'm like, just let it go. Just let it go. I don't care if someone's being mean to you, if someone said something in an email, let it go. It's not going to matter at the end of the day, at the end of the month. Like you're not going to care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
And I try to tell this to, I have a friend, and they will let one small thing happen to them in a day, and their whole day is ruined. And I'm like, you're going to ruin an entire day of your life because something small happened to you? I'm like, it is not worth it. I drop things so fast because I know it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I was like, I would rather forget about that, put happiness back into my life, and have the day being happy, smiling, laughing, whatever.
Yeah.
Because why would you want to spend a day feeling terrible about one little thing?
Because also what happens with the energy that you then continue to carry into everything else, I feel like that lessens the experiences that you have after that.
Yeah.
So if you're in a bad mood or you're carrying that, like everything bad happens to me or whatever, well, if you think that everything bad happens to you, it probably will. Because it's going to be harder for you to see the good, so you're going to identify the bad.
I had to tell my mom that because her and a lot of people on my mom's side of the family, they love to focus on like the bad things that happen to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, I promise you, if you focus on the good things and you put that good energy out there, you'll see all the good things more than you will the bad, and you'll feel better. And she was like, Alex, I'm trying to do it. So she'd get on the phone with me, and she used to be like, oh, this happened. And I'm like, Mom, I don't want to hear all these negative things. Think about the positive things that have happened. And I feel like it has changed her for the better, because I'm like, just don't focus on the bad things. They're going to happen. Just let it go. That's
my thing that I have been stuck on for like the last year.
Yeah.
Is like, I feel like in itself, for everyone, life's default setting, if we're looking at it like a video game, right?
Yeah.
Life's default setting is difficult.
Yeah.
That's just it. There's no way. It doesn't mean life is not good. Again, we're not 0 to 100. We're not good or bad. Life just is what it is. Doesn't mean it's terrible. Doesn't mean it's always amazing, sunshine and rainbows all the time. However, we can identify, okay, life setting, it's pretty difficult for everybody. We all got to pay bills. We all got to make money. We all got to do all this stuff. We have to have annoying conversations.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen, right?
Yep.
You're going to get cut off in traffic. You're going to, whatever, have a weird experience. But again, how we respond to those things dictates how much power that bad thing has, right? So my thing has been, life's default setting is absolutely at a difficult level. Why would I do more things to myself to make it harder for myself?
That's such a great way of looking at it.
You know what I mean? So like, what can I do? And again, I always overemphasize this because I'm sure there's always somebody who's listening who takes that as like, oh, that's just positive mindset, BS, you know, whatever. It's like, no, like, again, I understand, like, bad things are going to happen, and sometimes we let the bad things be bad. You have to feel the feelings. You have to, you know, if it takes 6 months to get to the good part of something, that's just what it takes.
Yeah.
It takes what it takes. That's okay.
Yeah.
Again, things are not a light switch, on or off. It's not good or bad. It's usually somewhere in the middle. But again, it's like, why would I look for more things to make life more difficult?
Yeah.
Why would I look for more things to be mad at? Why would I look for more things to annoy me? Why would I look for more conflict to have, right? And of course, there's people that are just gonna do, that's just their natural setting, and they are, you know, for whatever happened, that is their natural setting. They are the, like, argumentative. They want to look for everything to be crazy and chaos, and that's okay. It's not my job to do anything about that. It's not anyone else's job. To change that person or whatever. They figure out what works for them.
Yep.
But for me and how I treat other people and the world that I want to build and exist and live in and all that sort of stuff, like, I'm going to operate knowing that right now as you and I sit and do this podcast, I would venture to say that you and I each have yet to experience some of our worst days.
Yeah.
Like, there are days that both of us are going to experience at some
100%.
point that are going to be the new worst day we've ever experienced.
Yeah.
I'm going to operate knowing that. And that doesn't mean when that day shows up that I'm going to be like, huh, I was prepared. I don't care about that. No, that's not it at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to be crushed by whatever that thing is. I know I will be. But I can also look at the fact of like, all right, well, so far we've got an undefeated streak against all of our worst days.
Yep.
And whether it takes 6 months, 6 years to process that bad day, whatever it is, it's possible. But I also know that I cannot let that terrible thing that is bound to happen destroy every other good thing that I've worked for, or every other good thing that does happen, just like you said, the perspective piece.
Yeah.
And so it's like operating through that of like, it's going to happen. There's no stopping it. It doesn't. Positive mindset is not going to stop a terrible thing from happening.
Correct.
No. Positive mindset can help how you respond to that thing, and maybe help you get a little bit more gas in the tank to process that thing.
I would agree, and maybe move on beyond it whenever you can process it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think people think that just having a positive mindset that like nothing bad happens. It's like, no, bad shit happens.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen to everyone.
Yep.
You just, I don't know. It's very much just what you said. It's your outlook is not gonna change it. It's just gonna happen.
Right. While we've got our advice caps on here,
yes,
I want to play a game.
Ooh, I love games.
We're gonna pretend that time travel is real.
Okay.
So right now, I want to pretend like you can time travel back to any point in your life.
Okay.
To any version of Alex. You get to show up and you get to share something with them. What do you want to tell them?
Ooh, I think I would go back to when I was in high school. And I would tell myself to come out sooner, like earlier in my life. Because, so I was in speech, like competitive speech. I was in choir. I was in like drama class for our plays, and I was in broadcast journalism. And I was really, what is it, like when like I wasn't like showing who I truly was. Like I wasn't
in your shell.
Yeah, I was like really in my shell because I was so nervous that I would do things that would make people think that I was gay, and even though I was, but it's a whole thing, right?
Yep.
And I would tell myself to come out and like live it up because it's wonderful, and I would have been so much happier.
Yeah.
I think that's like what I would do.
How much longer was it?
I didn't come out till 2000. So I graduated high school in 2009.
Okay.
And I didn't come out until 2000, maybe 11.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what that moment was like? Like, what did it feel like? Was it a liberating feeling? Was it a finally feeling? Was it a embracing, or was it just like, yep, did it, needed to do it, cool, nothing crazy?
It was scary.
Yeah.
So I came out to a couple friends that I met at Ohio State first, and that was fine because they had only known me like basically that way, right? But then I was going to come out to my friends, and I came out to them on Facebook Messenger, And I cried because I was nervous because, like, you know, you're coming out. They could just decide not to be your friend anymore. You could just lose these people that you thought liked you, but they don't.
Yeah.
But that was all fine. And I went back. It was like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And my friend Allison, she was like, Alex, come out this weekend. Come out to your family, and just let me know how it goes. And I was like, okay, I will. So I went home. My dad was asleep. My sister, I don't know if she even like lived with my parents at that point. And my mom and myself, we watched The Kids Are All Right, which I think has Julianne Moore and I maybe Annette Bening. I don't even know.
Okay.
But it was like a lesbian couple with their children, whatever. And after the movie, there was just like silence in the living room. And I looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, I have to tell you something. And she said, what? And I just said, I'm gay, which I will tell you, for people who are coming out for the first time, it is so difficult to just say those words. Like I was thinking about it for a while before I could even say it to her. And whenever I did, it was still silent. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to bed and I want you to think about that and we'll talk about it in the morning. And I went in there, I texted my friend Allison, and then I went to bed. And I talked to my mom about it the next day. And she was very, she cried because she was afraid of how people would treat me. And she, I don't know, she said she loved me and that nothing would change. So that's obviously wonderful. And I told her, I was like, okay, I want everyone to know before Thanksgiving. I don't want it to be a secret for anyone. So tell everyone. And then I talked to my dad. And at first my dad, he didn't get it. And he said it was like God was punishing him.
Okay.
Which I was like, wow, like that's a big thing to say.
Yeah.
But my dad, like after that, he just, I don't know, I think people, they don't give their parents or their loved ones time to process that because it's new information for them too. And if they've never dealt with it, they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
My parents don't know what to say. Like I could tell them a really random thing and they still wouldn't know what to say, right? Like it takes time to process. So I don't think that like my dad truly meant it in that way that I took it.
Yeah.
And now they're the most supportive parents ever. They're wonderful. I've put my dad in drag before.
I love that.
They're wonderful. And
Yeah.
it was a overall good experience for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't you have a conversation with them on a podcast?
Yeah.
Was it Carrie?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have her on this show at some point.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
I had them on the podcast and we talked a little bit about me coming out and how they felt. And it was wonderful. They are wonderful, wonderful people.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I love that. Again, the just like you said. Okay, there's initial shock. You got to let them realize, whatever they're processing and all that sort of stuff. But I love that it turned around and now it's like, yes,
oh yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
like,
they're wonderful. It was great.
Do you get to have conversations very often with others who are like in that coming out phase, or like do you ever get to converse or share anything with anybody like that?
I have sometimes because of my cookie business. So
Okay.
I will travel around the country doing drag cookie workshops at universities, and sometimes those kids haven't come out or they're beginning to figure out that they want to do drag or whatever their journey is. And they'll ask me those questions or whatever. I mean, coming out it's a different timeline for every single person. It just depends when you feel comfortable to do that. So I don't give a ton of advice unless someone specifically wants my advice or like what I did, like my story. But every so often I'll get parents that'll contact me on my page and they're like, hey, I know someone who just came out or my kid just came out. Do you have resources? Do you have advice? And I try to talk to them and help them out with that. And it's wonderful. It's really fulfilling. It's something I never knew would happen from doing a cookie business.
That's
but,
literally what I was about to say. It's like that extra benefit of what because I feel like in like different but similar ways, like I feel like I get to do that with all the different things that I do, and especially something like this podcast. It's like I sit with people for often 2 hours of an episode talking about their life. And throughout that, I've done over 100 episodes of the show at this point.
Yeah.
There's plenty of my life that has circulated out through all these episodes as well. And it is such a fun, like, secondary thing where you're like, oh, so I'm just doing the things that I like to do and sharing the things that I like to share, but we often don't know how that can impact or connect with somebody else.
Yeah.
And when you get those messages of you were a support system or you gave great, advice or guidance or whatever, where you are like, I didn't even know I was doing that, but I love that you found this extra value. It's not just someone messaging you and being like, hey, love the cookies.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
Messaging me like, hey, podcast is cool. Like, it's like, hey, this thing about this adjacent piece of positivity is something that really resonated with me. And it's like that, and not to put words in your mouth, but like, I feel like in something like that, when you're running a business or doing something like that, that's like an overarching thing, those little moments almost mean more than 1,000 cookie orders or a million listens on an episode or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, it's like I said before, it's something I never expected to be part of it, but it's so fulfilling, it's so nice, and it's something that I really try to harp on the thing, like what is it? Gosh, there's something that I always tell people, and it's I'm gonna think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. I'm so bad at this. But it's basically just saying that because I'm a queer person and I'm in drag and I'm out there doing these things, it shows other people that they can do whatever they want, however they want. I really wish I had the words to say it, because I have them, and I've told people this multiple times, but it's basically just saying that being out there shows people that they can.
Yeah, 100%.
Representation matters.
Love
That's
it.
Yes. That's what it is.
Yes, yes. I'm glad that wasn't a later on the drive home.
I know.
It would have been. You're like, put this in. Like, I'm going to send you a voice.
I've been sleeping. I said, oh my gosh, text him.
This is what I should have thought of.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love that. And that is the thing. It's like representation of any kind, of anybody doing anything, and proof of, find that, even if it's a little bit of that self-love, that self-confidence in whatever that is for you, that little bit can take you a long way in experiencing just a more fulfilled life in general. Like, I feel like anybody who listens to this show often, I'm so sorry that I'm repeating this for the millionth time, but like, my word has been fulfillment for like the last couple of years. That has been just my thing that I have just attached to.
Yeah.
And I try to have that at the core of most of my decisions that I make. That doesn't mean that I'm not doing things for money or not doing things for whatever. Like, yes, again, those life default settings, got to do them.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to try and run as much as I can through that fulfillment filter.
Yeah.
To sit and say, what energy does this take from me? What does it require? But what am I going to get back out of a fun life experience or a new great friendship or a new whatever? Like, again, it doesn't have to be a life-changing thing.
Yeah.
Just what's the thing? What's the thing that's going to make me feel more like me and a little bit more fulfilled? Because that being added to my tank is going to take me further than, showing how well I can grind it out at the job and, whatever.
100%.
Like,
agreed.
I want to keep playing pretend for a second.
Yes.
Last couple questions. If future Alex showed up to you right now, what would you hope that he would be sharing with you?
I don't know. Just that he was happy. Because I don't have any specific thing that I'm like, oh, I want this for my future. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, I hope I'm rich. I hope I have a big house. Mm-hmm. In fact, I would rather have a smaller house. It's too much to clean. Yeah. I don't know. Just that he was happy.
Yeah.
Just that he was happy. I don't think it would really matter what else happened.
Mm-hmm. Final question for you.
Okay.
And we're still on the pretend train here.
Okay.
We're still gonna pretend. So I end every one of these episodes with the exact same question. So now it's your turn. Ooh. So right now, I would like for you to pretend that everybody in the entire world is listening to you speak.
Okay.
We're throwing logic out the window, right? Everybody can hear you. They can understand you.
Okay.
So you have a live mic attached to everybody right now in this moment. You get to share one thing with them. What is it that you're telling everybody? What would you really want them to hear?
Ooh. That is a tough question. That is a good question. If you could just tell because in my mind I'm like, oh, I want to be like something profound, something great, and I don't even know if it has to be anything like that. I feel like I think I just want everyone to give everyone grace, be a little kinder, make people laugh, just try to find that happiness. I feel like that's all I would want for everyone.
Alex, this was so much fun.
Thank you for having me. This was a great time.
I am so very happy that we got to make this happen.
Me
we got
too.
To finally align schedules, finally make this happen. I don't know how long we've been sitting down for, but this was literally a blast of a conversation. Like, I am so happy that we have finally got to meet and make this happen.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
Before we tell everybody officially goodbye,
okay,
we got to tell them where they can go check out everything that you do. If they want to go check out the cookies, the drag, anything like that.
Yeah.
Do you want people to find you around the internet, all the things, where can they do that at?
Okay. So if you want to check out my cookies, Plenty O Cookies is on Instagram. I have a website, and it's just plentyocookies.com. For drag, my drag name is Plenty O Smiles. I don't do a ton of performing anymore, so you can just find her on the cookie page too. And then I have a podcast, but she's brand new. She's just in the works, but it's called Down on Gay Street, and it's more just for funsies, just talking to people. And then my name's Alex. That's it.
I love it. Dude, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was an absolute blast.